From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Anne Waodo.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arrest former Chief Financial Officer of NNPCL, Umar Ajay Issa, and former Managing Director of Warri Refinery, Jimoh Olasukomi, over alleged $7.2 billion project fraud. Kaduna State Governor Obasani announces the arrest of 22 suspects over the murder of 12 indigenes of the state in Plateau over the weekend. In what he describes as the beginning of Nigeria's agricultural renaissance, President Bola Tinubu commissions 2,000 tractors for mechanized farming. And Iran launches missiles as U.S. military bases in Qatar and Iraq in response to strike on its nuclear sites on Saturday.
On Business News tonight, NNPCL and other petrol marketers increased pump price of PMS to 9.45 naira per litre in Abuja, 9.15 naira in Lagos amid escalating conflict in the Middle East.
On Sports News tonight, Thomas Bach hands over control of the International Olympic Committee to Kirsty Coventry with a ceremonial key at the Olympic House in Switzerland.
From the nation's capital, Vice President Kashim Shettima calls for integration of Africa's informal sector into formal intra-African trade framework to unlock the continent's full potential.
A former Chief Financial Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPCL, Umar Ajay Issa, has been arrested by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC. His arrest is in connection with an alleged $7.2 billion fraud linked to the rehabilitation of the Kaduna, Warri, and Port Harcourt refineries. Also in EFCC custody is the former Managing Director of the Warri Refinery, Mr. Jimoh Olasukomi. As CFO, Mr. Ajay was reportedly responsible for authorizing the release of funds for the turnaround maintenance of the 3 refineries. The anti-graft agency says that several other senior officials, particularly those involved in the refinery projects and other key NNPCL contracts, are also under investigation for alleged abuse of office, diversion of funds, corruption, and receiving kickbacks from contractors. 22 suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder of 12 Kaduna indigenes in neighboring Plateau State last Saturday. And that's according to the state governor, Obasani. The victims were part of a 31-member group from the Basawa community in Zaria in Kaduna State, traveling en route to Kwanpan local government area of Plateau for a wedding when they were attacked by hoodlums, drawing a lot of condemnations from across the country. Governor Obasani, who visited some of the surviving victims at the hospital today, says that he is in touch with the governor, Caleb Mutfwang, and President Bola Tinubu to ensure that all those involved in the attack are brought to justice. Just yesterday, President Bola Tinubu had ordered security agencies to ensure the arrest of the perpetrators of the crime.
When I came in here, my heart bleeds because this is really unfortunate and it's barbaric what really happened, because you can see these are innocent people that were traveling for a wedding. Unfortunately, the father of the groom and 12 others were murdered. And of course, you can see a lot of them here injured. They survived because the military intervened, because they were to be killed, all of them, by the people of Mangu local government. And of course, I must tell you that I spoke with the governor, and he assured me that all those that were involved will be brought to justice. Also spoke with Mr. President Bola Tinubu. I spoke with the National Security Advisor as well as General Christopher Musa. This barbaric situation must stop, because if you look at the constitution of this country, everyone has the right to travel wherever he wants to go within the country. freely. Of course, these are people that were innocent. They were not going for anything other than attending a wedding ceremony of one of their family members who lived in Plateau State. And of course, they met their death, most of them. And like I said, this must stop. And I can assure you that it will never happen again, because I will try my best to ensure that justice is done.
The Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa has identified hunger and poverty as serious social challenges that are largely responsible for the continuous national security threats being experienced in Nigeria. General Musa was speaking in Abuja at the 14th National Security Seminar organized by the Alumni Association of the National Defense College. The Chief of Defense Staff, who was represented by the Chief of Defense Training at the Defense Headquarters, Rear Admiral Ibrahim Shatima, called for a unified national approach to combating hunger and poverty, in addition to timely reporting of suspicious movements.
At the instance of the Alumni Association of the National Defense College, security experts converged for another brainstorming session on ways to combat the nation's security challenges. The conversation begins as participants underscore the need for sustained investment in education, economic empowerment, and social inclusion as critical non-kinetic responses to Nigeria's efforts at combating insecurity.
Chief Obafemi Awolowo of blessed memory, a prominent statesman, did emphasize that the children of the poor you failed to train will never let your children have peace. The same goes for hunger and poverty. Indeed, hunger and poverty renders a population vulnerable to negative vices and subversion by hostile organizations, with the attendant negative impact on national security.
The drivers of insecurity are identified and possible solutions proffered.
Insecurity is no longer defined solely by the presence of arms and ammunition, but is now also rooted in economic deprivation, food insecurity, social dislocation. Indeed, empowering the youth, enhancing livelihood, promoting tolerance, and encouraging private investment are critical blocks in constructing a secure and resilient nation.
The theme of this year's seminar, Combating Hunger and Poverty for Sustainable Peace and Development in Nigeria, gives us the platform to examine an existential challenge that remains a catalyst for several security challenges in our dear nation.
On his part, the Minister of Defense advocates the need for human-centered security approaches capable of addressing the root causes of insecurity, including unemployment, poverty, and social exclusion.
The emphasis of this year's seminar on critical human security issues, such as hunger and poverty, aligns with the President's commitment to improving the lives of vulnerable Nigerians. His intervention through support for agricultural initiative, youth vocational training, and provision of essential social services have directly impacted countless lives and contribute meaningfully to grassroots peace building.
The seminar with the theme Combating Hunger and Poverty for Sustainable Peace and Development in Nigeria was organized in collaboration with the Office of the National Security Advisor and National Defense College.
The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says that Nigeria's capital, Abuja, remains one of the safest places in the world, despite a recent security report and advisory issued by the United States Embassy. Mr. Idris, in a statement issued in response to the U.S. Embassy's directive restricting its staff members and families from non-official visits to military and government facilities in the Federal Capital Territory, says that the federal government recognizes the right of foreign missions to issue advisories to their citizens, but insists that there is no imminent or specific threat in Abuja. The minister adds that Nigeria's security and intelligence agencies are working round the clock to protect lives and property across the country, especially in the FCT. The United States mission in Nigeria had on Sunday issued a security advisory warning U.S. citizens against non-official travel to Nigerian military and government facilities in Abuja. This directive is coming amid increased security concerns linked to recent global developments, prompting heightened caution for American nationals residing or traveling in Nigeria. The federal government is warning that Nigeria's democracy and media credibility face growing threats from deepfake technology and AI-generated disinformation. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, raised this alarm at the 70th Anniversary Gala Award Night and book presentation of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, which took place in Abuja. Mr. Idris, who represented President Bola Tinubu at that event, asked journalists to uphold ethical standards in an age of digital deception.
This is the 70th anniversary celebration and book presentation of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. Among those in attendance is the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, who is representing President Bola Tinubu at the event. Former Ogun State Governor and veteran journalist Chief Olusegun Oshoba, the President of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, Mr. Ike Neliaku, among others.
Please welcome.
The minister hailed the enduring relationship between President Tinubu and the media, describing him as a staunch ally of press freedom.
As we mark 26 years of continuous democratic governance in our country, the media must champion narratives that reflect the country's democratic gains, stories of institutional reforms, infrastructural development, citizens' engagement, and socio-economic advancement.
Veteran journalist Mr. Laolu Akonde represented the chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, who is the chairman of the occasion. He underscores the contribution of the Nigerian media to democratic progress.
There is indeed a reason for Nigerian journalists and the NUJ to be celebrating today. Many of the battles that have been fought in this country and many of the battles that have been fought and won in this country has been because of what journalists and what the NUJ have contributed. And every Nigerian journalist should be proud of this.
The need to prioritize truth and honesty, especially to promote the nation's reputation, was also highlighted.
We must learn to be digital, and we must also invade the internet. It's the only way that we can fight out non-partisan, non-trade journalists. Let us all of us be active online and create credible platform.
The profession has suffered so much, especially during the time of the military, but we have stood the time. 70 years, that is platinum. And if you look at the ranking of metals, platinum is very strategic.
God bless you. God bless Nigeria. God bless.
Awards were then presented to the governors of Kano, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Ondo, Borno, Imo, Akwa Ibom, Oyo, and others. Highlight of the event is the presentation of a book titled Bleeding Ink, authorized by the immediate past National Secretary of the NUJ, Mr. Shuaibul Iman.
In part two, after the break, Vice President Kashim Shettima calls for integration as Africa's informal sector into the formal intra-African trade framework towards unlocking the continent's full potential. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, arrests a former chief financial officer of NNPCL, Omar Ajiya Issa, and former managing director of Warri Refinery, Jimoh Lasukomi, over alleged $7.2 billion project fraud. Kaduna State Governor Obasani announces the arrest of 22 suspects over the murder of 12 indigenes of the state in Plateau over the weekend. In what he describes as the beginning of Nigeria's agricultural renaissance, President Bola Tinubu commissions 2,000 tractors for mechanized farming. And Iran launches missiles at U.S. military bases in Qatar and Iraq in response to strikes on its nuclear sites on Saturday. President Bola Tinubu has reiterated his administration's resolve to tackle food security. The occasion was the launch of 2,000 tractors and other agricultural equipment to help support mechanized farming in the country. According to the president, the tractors and other equipment are expected to be deployed nationwide under the Renewed Hope Agricultural Mechanization Program. In what he describes as a push for agricultural renaissance, President Tinubu is optimistic that this initiative will help boost the agricultural mechanization in the country. Our correspondent Sarah Achimugu reports.
President Bola Tinubu is at the premises of the National Agricultural Seeds Council of Nigeria as part of his food security strategy. He is here to launch the distribution of tractors and equipment under the Renewed Hope Agenda program. He is received by some members of the Federal Executive Council, governors, chairman of the All Progressives Congress, development partners, and members of the diplomatic corps. The ministers of agriculture hint at the event's relevance to the provision of food security in the country.
This particular program is unique because it was packaged with the intention to bring down the level of low mechanization in the country. And Your Excellency, it is clear from what we have seen that at the end of the day, the 0.27 horsepower per hectare, that is the current mechanization level in this country, will be transformed to almost 2.5 horsepower per hectare at the end of the day.
What began as a bold policy directive has turned into tangible results, from early-stage coordination to full-scale assembly and deployment. We are already here, launching tractors and equipment that will redefine Nigeria's agricultural landscape.
Some of the benefits of the launch of the over 2,000 tractors and other agricultural equipment include ensuring cultivation of 550,000 hectares of farmland, generating more than 2 million metric tons of staple food, creating over 16,000 jobs, and directly benefiting more than 550,000 farming households across all 6 geopolitical zones. The program is a bilateral project between Nigeria and Belarus.
Равенстве и взаимном уважении и доверии.
Agricultural mechanization is one of the examples of cooperation which proves unlimited potential of our relations based on sincere friendship, equality, mutual respect and trust.
In his remarks, President Bola Tinubu thanks the Belarusian government for the partnership, recognizing the role played by his friend and classmate from the University of Chicago.
Never did we dream that I would be in this position as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and Alex will be a successful businessman from Belarus to bring about a very successful collaboration and bilateral relationship that will promote economic prosperity and future of our 2 countries. Alex, thank you very much for everything. I believe our university will be very, very proud that we are doing this here today.
Describing the launch as a promise fulfilled, he enjoins other political parties to fulfill their campaign promises to the people.
This government recognizes that the agricultural productivity is synonymous with national stability and food sovereignty. The ability to nourish our population form the bedrock of a prosperous nation. Our ambition extends beyond mere self-sufficiency. We envision Nigeria as a global agricultural powerhouse, supplying quality produce to international markets while ensuring every citizen has access to affordable nutrition food.
After the speeches, the president cut the tape to mark the launch of the equipment. In the next few days, these tractors and machineries will be deployed to the states and the FCT to boost food production. The federal government plans to put in place a monitoring and evaluation system to ensure efficient distribution and use of the equipment. The federal government plans to put in place a monitoring and evaluation system to ensure efficient distribution and use of the equipment. Sarah Chimugu, Channels Television News.
While agriculture was not the only thing on President Bola Tinubu's mind today, as he also restated his resolve to deliver on his campaign promises, including the provision of quality infrastructure to rural communities. The president, who has been commissioning some projects to mark his 2 years in office today, moved to Pai community, where he commissioned a 15-kilometer road under Kwali Area Council in the nation's capital, Abuja.
President Bola Tinubu arrives the venue for the official commissioning of a 15-kilometer road connecting Pai community in Kwali Area Council to the Abuja-Lokoja Expressway. Pai community is located off the Abuja-Lokoja Expressway, about 60 kilometers from the Abuja city center. The commissioning is part of a 19-day project commissioning exercise to mark President Tinubu's second year in office.
If you calculate all and the ongoing roads and the ones completed within the satellite towns, you've done not less than 150 kilometers of roads. With this, those of you who want to be farmers, real farmers, we are willing to pay compensation to communities and give you farmland so that we'll come out of the food problem which the federal government is trying to solve.
Pai community is essentially an agrarian community, explaining the reason for the excitement from the residents.
Mr. President, this route has really opened up a lot of economic activities for us. In the past, our people had serious challenges transporting their goods to the market. We want to thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the Honorable Minister. We know he has been doing well for us, and there's more is also coming towards this direction.
In his remarks, President Tinubu restates his commitment to developing rural communities across the country.
Rural communities such as Pai make important contributions to Nigeria's social and economic fabric. This project is one of the many we are delivering across the country, and we will not stop. We will continue until every Nigerian can feel the touch of meaningful governance.
Accompanied by the FCT minister and other dignitaries, President Tinubu then commissions the road.
To the glory of God Almighty,
The Pi Road project is arguably a game changer for residents who are mainly farmers, slashing travel times and facilitating access to urban markets.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited and other petrol marketers increased pump price of petrol to 945 naira in Abuja and 915 naira in Lagos amid escalating conflicts in the Middle East. And that's in business news. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Let's continue the news at 10 now as we head over to Abuja Studios, where Millicent Walker is standing by to give us more. Hello, Millicent.
Hi, Anne, and welcome back. Well, following the president's commitment to rural infrastructure development, the Vice President Kashim Shettima was engaging African countries to integrate their informal sectors into the formal economies. The Vice President was speaking at the opening of the 4th African Union Micro and Small Medium Enterprises Summit holding in Abuja, where he charged public and private financial institutions on the continent to establish strong credit schemes, trade-blended finance models, and regulatory environment that rewards innovation while protecting customers. Our State House correspondent, Emperor Simon, has more.
Nigeria is hosting the African Union MSME Summit for the first time, and Vice President Kashim Shettima leads the federal government's team. Policymakers, investors, and industry players from across Africa are attending the summit, which aims to promote the growth of businesses on the continent.
In the following 2 days, we must therefore engage in robust discussions, share best practices, and forge strategic partnerships to harness the power of digital innovation, to enhance competitiveness and operational efficiency of our MSMEs, to unlock new and expand existing market opportunities.
Digital innovation is no longer a luxury, but a necessity for African MSMEs. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated digital adoption across the continent, and we must build on this momentum.
So that question is... At a fireside chat, Nigeria's Minister of Trade and Investment highlights efforts of the current administration to promote investment in the country.
Mr. President, as the Chief Investment Officer of this economy, in 2 years has galvanized over $50 billion of foreign investment announcements, and it's our job at the ministry, through agencies under us such as the NIPC, to track and to make sure that that money comes home.
Despite their contributions to the economy of most African countries, micro, small, and medium enterprises across Africa are bedeviled with the challenges of financing, access to market, among others. Vice President Shettima therefore calls for collective action to change the narrative.
Public and private financial institutions must shed all biases and see MSMEs for what they truly are, partners in development. We must establish strong credit guarantee schemes, create blended finance models, and build regulatory environments that reward innovation while protecting customers. This is how we make them bankable.
High point of the event is the recognition of the Special Advisor to the President on Job Creation and MSME, Mr. Tolani Adekunle Johnson, as the Special Advisor to the African Union's 6th Region on Job Creation and MSME. The event also provides opportunity for businesses in Nigeria to showcase their goods to the guests, including Vice President Shettima, who tours the exhibition area. From the Presidential Villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Some company news now. Leading global and Nigeria's premium ride-hailing company, InDrive, held its annual safety summit in Lagos. The enlightening and educative gathering brought together key players in the transportation and safety sectors, providing an avenue for stakeholders to interact in order to promote better safety methods on Nigerian roads.
Services Directorate. It's the second edition of the InDrive Safety Education Summit holding in Lagos, aimed at enhancing accident-free experience and an important gathering for stakeholders in the transportation sector in Nigeria. But when we elaborate it can... In accordance with 21st century protection requirement, InDrive is using this summit to unveil its latest safety innovations, including live ride tracking, SOS integration for real-time emergency response during trips.
For us, safety is actually top of mind. Though it's a collective responsibility, it's a top of mind thing for us in our action, and that has been exemplified in our investments in high-tech features, proactive features that ensures that even before you get on a trip, your safety is guaranteed to a very high global standard.
Strengthening our collaborations.
The keynote speaker stresses the need for an enhanced interagency collaboration and standardized safety regulations.
Due to the complexities of transportation systems, it is imperative that we come together just like this, strengthen our collaborations, and address the challenges we face on our journey towards safer urban mobility.
It is also an opportunity to discuss important aspects of safety.
Very important that every single stakeholder is taken into consideration before we make any form of regulations. The regulations should not just be targeted at, revenue generation or just licensing and regulating the companies, but also at protecting both the driver and the passenger.
At the moment, we're having a higher number of reported crashes than before. It's not as if the level of crashes has increased to that level. That's because we're under-reporting before.
Then, a live demonstration of in-drive safety features.
On our platform, we've embedded a phone feature that allows you to make free calls if you don't want your number to be contacted.
Everyone can help. It doesn't have to be a doctor, it doesn't have to be a nurse, it doesn't have to be a paramedic, it doesn't have to be a community health extension worker.
Either for drivers and passengers, all the features that we are launching and we have available in our app is like just for everyone to have the knowledge, the education on what are those features, how they can use it for their own safety.
There are so many security features on the app that you can use to help you, to help if there's any incidents.
As a leading global ride-hailing company that operates in 888 cities in 48 countries around the world, InDrive says it's dedicated to aiding mobility through transportation and delivery through a fair pricing model.
And it's a good time to be a distributor of one of Nigeria's leading cement manufacturing companies. That's Boa Cement. This is because it's giving 30 naira cash back to distributors of every bag of cement lifted from the company in 2024. Now, the good news was announced by the management of Boa Cement at a night of dinner and 2024 awards, where the top 20 distributors were honored and presented with brand new SUVs, trucks and cashbacks.
Eco Hotels Lagos, Nigeria plays host to the Boa Cement Pillar of Strength event, and guests arrive in a wide spectrum of traditional attire. It's a night of dinner and 2024 customer awards to celebrate partnership, an evening of recognition, gratitude and celebration. Since 2015, when the first bag of cement came out of the Boa factory, it has grown to become the second biggest cement producer in the country, with a total installed capacity of 17 million metric tons. This calls for gratitude.
The management is indeed grateful to our able chairman, Alhaji Abdussamad Rabiu, for the wisdom to invest in Nigeria's cement industry. We will not have been here today marking this occasion without that courageous investment. We are equally grateful for the opportunity to meet with some of you face-to-face for the very first time, and we hope this gathering will foster a stronger and lasting relationship between us.
Next to speak is the chairman of Boa Cement PLC, who acknowledges that the journey has been worthwhile because of those he's traveling with.
To the management, staff, and entire team at Boa Cement PLC, your dedication is the silent force behind every visible success. From boardroom to factory floor, it is a relentless effort and excellence that keep this engine running.
Congratulations.
Beyond the general cashback of 30 naira for every bag of cement purchased, top 20 distributors are to be honored, beginning with the Sapphire category.
Today we're saying thank you.
Brand new SUVs and cashbacks to 11 distributors.
Appreciate your patronage.
Next is the Emerald category for Distributor of the Year. Brand new truck and cashback awarded to each of the 7 people in this group.
And these are our top dealers for 2020.
And for the Diamond category, here, the top 2 dealers earn 2 brand new trucks each and cashback running into hundreds of millions of naira.
Our top dealer 2024, High Chief Chinedu Ezenyini of Chinedu and Sons Investment Nigeria Limited.
And he sold 17,632,600 bags of cement.
With the event concluded, there is no doubt, but the distributors' faith is further cemented in BOA as they get fired up to do more and stand to be recognized come 2025 awards night.
Very lucky winners. Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's over now to Joke Rogers for more on business news.
Thanks, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. Retail outlets run by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited have implemented an upward adjustment in the pump price of the premium motor spirit to 945 naira per litre in the Federal Capital Territory. Several Lagos retail outlets owned by the NNPCL also adjusted their pump price to 915 naira per litre, marking a fresh upward review in the downstream retail market by 45 naira in Lagos and 35 naira in Abuja. The prices were previously bought at 870 naira in Lagos and 910 naira per litre in the nation's capital. Now, the Senate has directed the Nigeria Customs Service to raise its revenue target for 2025 from 6 trillion to 10 trillion naira, citing the urgent need for enhanced enforcement and surveillance amid rising smuggling and insecurity challenges across the country. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Customs, Senator Issa Jibrin, gave the fresh directives when the NCS appeared before the committee to defend its 2025 budget. During its own plenary earlier in the day, the House of Representatives Committee on Customs also directed the agency to stop collecting the 1% comprehensive import supervision scheme levy and the 7% cost of collection, declaring them illegal and not backed by any existing law. Chairman of the committee, Leke Abejide, issued the directive during a budget defense session with the management of the Customs Service regarding its 2025 proposal. And the Nigerian equities market begins the final trading week of June on a bright note, building on gains recorded in previous sessions amid investor interest in the banking stocks. Willie Bong tells us more.
Welcome to the stock market reports. Equities have continued the bullish momentum this week. The index, we see it climbing further today, 0.37%, solidifying the 118,000 points it hit on Friday. Now, investor interest in Presco made this happen as the consumer goods giant rose 10% today, adding 110 naira to its share price to close at 1,210 naira. We saw that trickle down to the consumer goods index. You can see that on the screen, 0.73%. And overall, key indexes we track, we're all spotting the green color. Banking index in the green, 0.62%. We see them rebounding from that CBN forbearance regulation. Oil and gas gains in O&O and Eternal boosted that counter. All prices are still on the rise. We see amid the tensions in the Middle East. Hoping that's following that. Now, it's still day one. Let's see if investors will keep biting this week. And those are the highlights. Will Ibong signing out.
Thanks, Will. And we close business news with the global market figures for Monday. That's business news tonight. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Joke. Let's now join Simon Pise with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Israeli military has struck Tehran's notorious Evin prison and damaged parts of the facility, which holds many political detainees. CCTV footage showed an explosion at one of the prison's gates. Israel's defense minister said it was hitting regime targets and agencies of government repression across Tehran, including Evin. It comes as Donald Trump has floated the possibility of leadership change in Iran hours after his team said replacing the Iranian government was not the aim of the U.S. attacks. Iran's military has vowed a decisive response after Mr. Trump said U.S. strikes caused monumental damage to Iranian nuclear sites.
This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called. It took a great deal of precision, it involved misdirection, and the highest of operational security.
A U.S. submarine in the Central Command Area of Responsibility launched more than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles against key surface infrastructure targets at Esfahan. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Esfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has called on China to prevent Iran from closing the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important shipping routes. His comments came after Iran's state-run Press TV reported that Parliament had approved a plan to close the strait, but added that the final decision lies with the Supreme National Security Council. Any disruption to the supply of oil would have profound consequences for the world economy. At least 7 people have been killed and several injured in an overnight Russian missile and drone attack in the Kyiv region. Authorities said hospitals and sporting infrastructure had been hit. At least 6 of those who died were in a high-rise building in the capital, according to Kyiv's mayor Vitaly Klitschko, adding that 22 others were injured in the city. From inside the church showed a heavily damaged altar, pews covered in broken glass and blood spattered across the walls. A bride has been shot dead on her wedding night in a village near the southeast French city of Avignon after masked gunmen opened fire. One suspected attacker was also killed in an apparent exchange of fire, and the groom and a 13-year-old child were seriously wounded during the incident in the village of Goult. A manhunt involving dozens of police officers and a helicopter is underway for an unknown number of suspects who managed to flee. French media reports that the violence may be linked to drug-related score settling. The fashion legend Giorgio Armani will miss 2 shows at Milan Fashion Week for the first time in his career. The 90-year-old Italian designer is currently recovering at home, his company said in a statement. His recovery follows a brief hospital stay in Milan. It is thought to be the first time that Armani has missed one of his catwalk events in a career that spans over 5 decades. Last year, he said he could retire soon in the coming years. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Kirsty Coventry has officially become the president of the International Olympic Committee, IOC, the most powerful person in sports, earlier today in a handover ceremony with her predecessor, Thomas Bach. The Zimbabwean is the first woman and African to head the body, and at 41, the youngest since Baron Pierre de Coubertin, who is credited with founding the modern-day Olympics. Coventry accepted the Olympics key from Bach, who, like her, is an Olympic champion. Nigeria Super Falcons played to a scoreless draw against host Portugal in a friendly game as they continue preparations for the Women's African Cup of Nations. It wasn't an inspiring performance from the 9-time African champions, but the team showed resilience to end a draw under the guidance of coach Justin Madugu. The Super Falcons remain unbeaten in their WAFCON build-up. The team will face the Black Queens of Ghana in a final warm-up game on June 29 in Morocco before their opening WAFCON match against Tunisia on July 6 in Casablanca.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. Operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, today announced the arrest of a former chief financial officer of NNPCL, Umar Ajiya Issa, and former managing director of Warri Refinery, Jimoh Olasukomi, over alleged $7.2 billion project fraud. Also today, Kaduna State Governor Obasani announced the arrest of 22 suspects over the murder of 12 indigenes of the state in Plateau over the weekend. And Iran has launched missiles at U.S. military bases in Qatar and Iraq in response to strikes on its nuclear sites on Saturday. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Wawadu. Good night and stay safe.